Hi there, folks. This is Corey Babka from the Marks Group. I'm just doing our monthly webinar here for tips and tricks. I actually have all the attendees right now are muted. However, I do have this as a list that if you do have a hand raised, you can use the little function as raise your hand, and that will kind of get to me, and away we go. And I can, answer your question or unmute you or however we want to do it. But I kind of want to just get through our tips and tricks for the month. We do these every month. I think I missed last month, and I do apologize for that. But what we do is we post our tips at the beginning of the month or the end of the month, depending. Last 25 after the 25th of the current month. Our webinar will then go over those tips and tricks from the previous month, like 3 weeks later. So, for instance, last night I just posted up on our latest blog page 3 more tips. From there, I actually had, let me just move something out here, just want to get my list. That webinar will be at the end of this month to go over those 3 tips. So it gives you a little time to read, practice on your own, and then we go over those in depth, see if there's any questions, so on and so forth. Okay? So today what we're going to be going over is the 3 tips that I posted up the end of December. And those are working with formula fields, some output to Excel functionality. It's a little add-on that I like to talk about. And then the working with the stay in touch email. Okay, so we're going to go through. So let me. I'm going to adjust my resolution a little bit, so you might be able to see a little bit more from my screen, just to kind of get it a little bit bigger for you. There we go. We'll just do it this way and make sure that that works. Okay, right. So we're good there. I want to say okay to that. Here's my Salesforce, and it's a little bit bigger. Good. Okay. So basically, just kind of going through our tips, what we're looking at is there is one thing inside of Salesforce. I don't think it's used as often, at least I don't. But if there's an item here that's called your keep in touch email, or the request update is what it is, right? Basically, what it does is, it's very similar to this, where I request the update, where it sends here just updating my stuff, going and so on and so forth. That same type of idea, where you can do it here. It's the same idea, but we can do it en masse, which is nice from the stay in touch. So the request update, the stay in touch update, very, very similar to what it does, but basically it allows you to get in touch with your clients, have them update their information, phone numbers, email addresses, all that kind of stuff. And then what they do is they actually go through and will see that email, and they will they'll update their data. So we're going to go through that live. We're going to kind of walk through this, right? So what I've done is I've gone through the contact side. Okay, like I said, we can also do it one at a time. We're going to do it through the contacts area here. And if I scroll down to the bottom, there is a mass stay in touch. Okay, so if I do this one here, what happens is it allows you to, very similar, if you've watched any of my tips on the email blast, it's a very similar situation. You actually can create a new view, or you can pull out one from what you had before. I have a test-only view, which if I edit this, it will show you that it is basically everyone in my contacts that has this particular email, which is my own personal one, right? So what I'm going to use is that. I say go, and it should end up with 2 people. That's fine. Okay, Joe Test and Alex Babka, right? Now, what happens from here is I say next, and then it will go to this, and it will say, I can BCC me on one message, which I don't need to. I can store the activity, which is fine as well if you really want to. It doesn't store the body of the email, but much like an email blast, it actually stores the piece, the subject line and the date. Like you put in the subject saying, I sent out a stay in touch update. I mean, that's what it would be. So here's our template, right? Subject is that. Hi, whoever that is. I'm updating my address book, yada, yada, yada. I hope this finds you well, blah, 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 right? And then I can send it out, okay? Now, I'm going to actually hit send on here, but I want to show you, if we keep this in mind, I'm updating my address book. If I say send here, what that does is it goes through there. That's just fine. While we're waiting for that to send, if I go back to this one and look at the request update, it says the same thing. I'm updating my address book and I want to make sure you have contact information, blah, blah, blah. Can you do this? Here's my information, and away we go, right? So it's a similar idea with the mass stay in touch and whatever that is. Now, when I was there, you notice it says you can edit the form, right, with the tool, right? Well, no, this is actually saying on the contact homepage. If you want to edit the form or edit the email, you have to go to your stay in touch settings page. This, if I click on it, you'll notice is a very personal thing. This is not the global setup. This is the personal setup. And if I go here, it actually says, what do you want to do? What's your email template? What's the signature? All that kind of stuff that's there, right? This middle section between the intro and the signature is what they put in their address, and that's more of a stock form that you can't really mess with. Okay, so there's a few things we can do there to touch on that, right? Now, I did my test-only view, right? And then I did this, you know, again, it came through. So I'm going to look back on my tips document just to make sure I'm not missing anything for you, right? And I have images and all that kind of stuff on the tips page as well. And so here, let's just go through and look at what it looks like on this side, okay? So if I go here and I send and receive in my Outlook, we should see something soon, unless it went to my junk, but I'm not seeing that just yet. There it is. Okay, so I got two of them. The reason why is because there's two different contacts in my system that have that same email. Okay, so this is the one that says, "Hi Alex, I'm updating my address book, blah, blah, blah," right? So I'm going to get rid of this one. That was the Joe tester. I'm going to pretend that I'm Alex here. I open up this email, and you can see it says, "I'm updating my address book. I want to make sure you have the contact information right? So I go down here, and I can look at this and say, ooh, I'm not really big on this. I want to change some of the numbers. What they'll do is they actually have a no changes or an update now. Okay, so I'm going to click Update Now, which will bring them kind of into my Salesforce instance, but not really. It's in here, but they're locked out, right? And I'm going to change some things here. I'm going to go to here and make this DR. I'm going to change a phone number, get rid of the mobile, get rid of the home, right? And then my other son, my poor boy, he's the assistant, I guess, but I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to make mom the assistant. And then for the phone number, I'll just go here and say 555-123-4567. Okay, a little bit different than what it was, I believe. Let me look at that email again, make sure. Oh, 45. I have to change this. Sorry. Let's do 555-9999. Okay, so if I do that there and I say continue, I can also say, nice to hear from you. You know, please reach out so we can set up an appointment, right? That type of thing. And I say continue. Thank you, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so now it's going to go back to my own email. So if I go to my Marks Group email address, which is where it is, right? Delete a couple of these junk things that I have, where I start going through here. There it is. Okay, so here's my email, right? So what it says is he has sent the following changes, and you'll notice I only got what was actually changed. Well, no, I'm sorry, I take that back. I have everything here, but the mobile home and that is blank. So if I say update now, what's going to happen is it's going to go into here, and the changes are what's shown, right? Drive, it was previously that. This was previously that, and I can say yes, no, 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 right? And then I can say accept changes, and now I've got that. It's all fine. So they come back one at a time. There's really no mass, you know, is it good to go update, but that's pretty much how that works, right? And you can see that they can also, let's see where that email is. So nice to hear from you. Please reach out so we can set up an appointment. So there is some information there as well as to what he did. Okay, and so that's what that mass stay in touch is. Like I said, a lot of people don't use it. The mass tool I actually may lean away from because you end up sending out way too many. But you never know. Like I might go to Stephen Weiss and say request update, and it will be the same type of thing, and you just hit send, right? And that's all it would be. And it says, hi, Stephen, yada, 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 right? There's his information. He can put whatever he wants in there. and I can say, you know, what it is because I don't have his phone information, right? And that might be a nice thing to do, is to set it up, okay? So that is the information on how to do the mass updates, or again, in the contact area, it's the mass update tool, the mass stay in touch tool, okay? In the regular contact records, if you're looking at Alex here, it's a request update. People always kind of shy away from it because they feel very impersonal on it, but you never know. I figure, you know, a light touch like this is better than no touch at all, right? I guess you could see it that way. Okay, so moving on to my next tip, I want to go over the output to Excel. Okay, now this isn't really a tip. This is more of a it's an add-on that's out here. Let's see if I look at it this way. Output Salesforce. Let me do this. I just want to find the link. Oh, actually, I have the link here. Hold on. I have it. I have it on a piece of paper. Okay. And that was not what I wanted to do because I copied too much. So this is the listing right here, and it's called Export to Excel. If you log in the App Exchange, you can get to it. It's by Liquid Hub, which is a consulting firm. They're actually, I know that they have. I don't know if they're local to Philadelphia, but I know a bunch of folks in that area, in this area, that work for them. And they're a Salesforce consulting firm, a big one. They've built this. Now, little caveat, like one of the people attending this today will probably tell you that it doesn't always work. That's a first for me. I've never really had issues for it, but I don't think that I've had it as much, or I've never put it under the stress test as much as this other client that I have that they've been doing, and a lot of their people are working with it. Basically what it does is exactly what you love out of the accounts and contacts areas and even opportunities, right? So in the my accounts view, if I go to my Salesforce accounts, right, and I do this, sorry about that, folks. If I do this, getting all my next call reminders. If I do this here, basically you've got new account, but see this button here? This is new, okay? So there's a new Export to Excel button that I did that you can create, and it's a free add-on, and all you do is basically click this button, and all it does is open it up, and it does this. It creates a file, and it gives me a download, right? And it should go to my downloads. I'm looking to see if it did. No, it didn't work. So I'm going to go through the same thing. There it is. So it worked on the second time, but I have seen this recently that it seems to be clunky. But if I do this, watch, there's 36 here. If I click on this, boom, I've got my 36 rows, right? And this is what I've got, okay? So it's not like you can do anything with it. I can't update. I can't use it to, you know, mass update or do like inline editing or anything like that. You can't do that. That's more of a Zoho and Dynamics does that instead, but it's because they're more tightly integrated with Excel. But in this case here, if I look at this button, it's not a bad one because a lot of people will just want to see on their opportunities, like give me all my opportunities. And if I added in Excel, which I can do that here, let's walk through the steps. What happens is it actually, I'm going to manage the field. So if I go to Setup, you'd have to do it in here like permission sets, like field sets, right? And so in the account area, for instance, if I go to field sets, here's my export to Excel, and I can choose what fields I see, okay? That's actually kind of the problem, is I don't have, these are all the columns that I've got in there, right? But and that's more than a view, because a view, you're limited to how many columns. I think you can only have 10 columns in a view, right? So in the Excel permission, or the field sets, I can actually put in a lot more than what we just did right here. This is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fields. When I do the export to Excel, we're going to have a lot more. It's going to include my entire address, all that kind of stuff. Let me see, it's in my downloads again. If I look at this guy, right, you see how many more I have, and it goes all the way over to here. So this is what I use this one a lot, because people will say to me they want to report out of Salesforce. and they want to report based on their My Open Opportunities view or something like that. Now, granted, there's a lot of out-of-the-box views or reports that you can use, but this one's a real nice one to just be able to say, boom, I want this out. So when you're doing it, like I don't have it here. I think I do have it in contacts. No, I just have it for my accounts. And that's, you just have to configure, and there's a walkthrough in their pages here as to how to do it. How do you configure it so you can actually get to, you know, you can get it on your accounts or your opportunities or whatever it is. And it's some simple instructions. What I prefer is just to kind of let you run with it and see if it works for you. There's a demo video. It's not really a tip today for this guy, but I'm just kind of throwing it out there as one of those things that I use, and I do use the tips area to kind of point out those different add-ons that are out there. The one that I just posted last night was about roll-up fields, and there's a roll-up helper that's a really good add-on as well. I'll talk about that one next month a little bit more, but I do like to use this this time to actually point out certain things that I use in the real world here and there. Okay, all right. So last tip, just kind of go over things. What I'm looking at next is working with formula fields, okay? And this might be a redundant item for some of you on the call. This might be something that's kind of like a, yeah, we do these all the time and it's pretty straightforward. I just kind of like to throw it out there because I go to a lot of places that they've already been using Salesforce a while. They've already done their own design. They've done their own customizations. And that's when I start to see things that I'm not loving, okay? I don't love the way that it is. For instance, if I go here, all right, so let's look at ampersand health, okay? Now, right now, they are a status of current, and they are a prospect, is what they are. Okay, and I'm going to save that. Well, what I might have at the contact level is I need to know what is he, what is their account status, what is their account type. Okay, and this is a very common thing that people will say, oh, well, I need it on the contact level as well. You know, so we need to put contact type or account type on the contact level. I need to know that whether they're a prospect or customer or whichever they are. Okay, and that's a big deal because most of the time when people do that, what they'll do is they'll end up doing something like creating a field called account type, and it's got the same drop-down list as the account type does on the account field, but it's an editable field in the contact. So you can understand how that turns into a nightmare scenario, right? If you had to update a contact and then you're like, uh-oh, I need to have that this account type was updated here, so therefore I now need to go to the contact or the account record and I need to update the type here as well. But what if there's more than one contact? Now do I have to go to all the other contacts, right? There is a way of doing it where you could do it with a workflow, but I think you get caught in the loop, right? Because, and that's what I talked about a little bit in my tip, is if you were to do a workflow that when I change the account type at the contact level, assuming this was an editable field, for instance, right? If I changed it here with Steven, I would have to create a workflow, assuming you're in Enterprise Edition for Salesforce. It would be a workflow that would then go up to the account and it would update it over here, right? That's the type. But then when I do that, I also need to have a workflow here that would then go and update the contact records, all of them, right? If they didn't equal it or something like that. I guess you could put in a whole, you'd have to be very careful about the workflow because if you did this here, this is where it gets confusing. If I change it here at the account level, which that previous workflow just did, now I want this to fire off and do another workflow and update contact 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? But the thing is what if I don't put in an extra protection and it goes in and updates Steven again? Well, if it updates Steven again, or it updates one of those other contacts, well, that workflow may fire again, and then it goes and it does this. And I know, like, I have workflow masters and people that do this, and they're much smarter at it than I am. And I'm sure there's ways of making sure that it doesn't get stuck in a loop, but you can imagine if you don't have those protections in place, how it could get rough. Now, I look at it this way. I think the best way to handle it is always to do it with a formula field, okay? So what I've got here is my account. I'm actually going to go to Alex Babka, see if there's any other contacts with him. I don't think there is, unfortunately. Oh no, there's four. Okay. So there's four different contacts right here, right? There's Alex and Lori, those are my parents, and Joe Jones. No one knows who Joe is. And I can say here on the type that if I go this and I say, well, you know what? They are an other. Okay. Well, that's great. Now, what happened is if I go look at Lori's record, you can see she's an other, and it's a formula. That's why it's locked. What I'm doing is a formula field that's pulling from the parent, right? And that allows me to put this in reports. It allows me to put it in views. Like I could go into my view here and I could put in what their account type is, right? If I wanted to do this, because that account type is now a formula field down here, right? So if you don't do it as a formula and you want it on the view, you have to put it in as an actual field. Like if you want it on the view, it has to be on the field, or it has to be on the form or available to the form for this particular record, the contact record. So like I said, I like to do a formula, and basically all I do is this. I go to setup, I'm going to go look at contact, right? I'm going to go look at my contact fields. I go to my new field, right? In this case here, I click new, and what I'd end up with is like an account type. So if I edit this guy, what he is he's a formula. And it's a formula field of text, and basically all I'm doing is I'm grabbing the account type. Okay? So if I look at this and I do an insert field, what it's looking at is I'm on the contact record. These are all the contact fields that I can get. But the ones with a little caret next to them mean, oh, there's another record. This is the parent account. So here I have all that information from the parent record. Okay, and I can grab all that. I can say account number and then insert that, and now I've got account number. So what it's going to pull is that value. Now, the downside of this, if I go back to like my Lori Babka, the downside is truly that I can't change it, right? I have another one called account status. And this is because when I do my email blast, I never want to blast out an email to a contact record that happens to be on an account that is closed or not current, right? Maybe they're a partner. And so that's where I do all my email blasts from the contact views, but I need a lot of account data for that information. So for instance, I have a lot of different things like, you know, what product do they use? Goldmine, Salesforce, Zoho, what product do they use? Dynamics, okay? And that's all in there, so I can pull that and I can do views and queries and things like that and reporting from the account level, but get it at the contact level. I don't think that's one thing I do have, though. If I wanted to create that, I could say, if I wanted to just look at this and say what product they had, I could do a similar type of thing, right? For instance, I could say, I could do another formula that would be the product that they use. For instance, if I wanted to do this, let's go ahead and do it. If I said setup and I said contact, and I say fields, I'm going to do a new one, it's a new field. We're going to do a formula, okay? It's a read-only field that derives its value from a formula expression. That's fine, but that could be a parent. I'm going to say account product. There it is. It's just going to be text. I say next. And now I'm going to go look for that field. It's at the account level, and it's going to be product. Boom. Insert it, and away we go. Now, when I check my syntax, we're going to get an error. I know we are because product is a pick list. So all I have to do is you do a little formula. It's a conversion formula that takes that text. It's actually over in here. If you click on it, it will tell you what it does. It says it converts a value to a text string. Now, if I do to check the syntax, we're fine. Nothing big. And I can save this and say next. Next. Save it. And we're back at the form, right? Or we can. Let's go back to my contacts, go back to here. And you can see there's my product. And again, it's locked. If I want to edit the layout, I'm going to bring that product over to here. But now, if I'm looking at a contact or an account, I can easily see this quick view into the information at the account level is what I need at the contact level. Instead of having to go back to ABC Company and see what they are, I can actually see these things right there. Okay? And that's about what it is. Now, That's about it for the tips this month. Went a little bit longer than I planned on doing. Apologize for that, folks. But if there's any questions, any comments, any other questions, follow up to today's tips, or anything you need from me, by all means, please drop me a line. My email is Corey, C-O-R-E-Y, at marksgroup.net, marksgroup.net. Thanks for attending, and we will be in touch soon. Thank you very much.